What up, everybody? We are down to the final episode of Power Book 2 Ghost, and the stage is set for the return of James St. Patrick. I've always been confident that Ghost faked his death and would return eventually. And now I'm more confident than ever that he'll return in the Book 2 finale after watching episode 9 and the clues from that episode that I'll get to in a minute. But even more after hearing the title of episode 10, Ghost in the Machine, a title that was once called Trump Card. And I'll also explain how those two titles actually tie together at the same time, starting with the title Ghost in the Machine. This means, like I've said in so many videos before, that this is talking about Ghost returning with the backing of the Democratic Party. A simple Google AI overview of what is the word machine symbolic for says a group of people that control activities, a group of people that control and organize something, such as a political machine or a publicity machine. Another definition for the word machine I found online says you can use machine to refer to a large, well-controlled system or organization. So no, the word machine in the title is not talking about Ghost in a computer or a time machine or anything like that don't make any kind of sense. When Ghost's story left off, he was running for lieutenant governor for the state of New York with the Democratic Party. After they locked this in and made it public on the news, the Democratic Party got wind that the New York district was trying to build a case against their candidate. This is when we got our first introduction to Stephen Ott from the Democratic Party in power. Ott showed up at Jacob Warner's office, who was the head of criminal for the Eastern District at the time. Stephen Ott let Warner know that he needed to dead his investigation into James St. Patrick. Ott even warned Jacob Warner that if he wanted to keep his job and have any kind of future career, he would leave James St. Patrick alone. And at this time, Stephen Ott said the key of Ghost's future, and how we knew from the beginning that Ghost faked his death after no body was ever shown. Ott told Warner that James St. Patrick is now property of the Democratic Party. This meant that Ghost had finally achieved that untouchable status that Tariq talked to Tasha about at the end of season 3. He now had the man with all the power backing him and making Ghost above the law. Keep in mind in power that Angela got John Mock a job at a top secret government organization that Steve Tampio was a part of. And Stephen Tampio had the authority to walk into the federal building and demand that they let go the Jimenez, two internationally wanted drug traffickers. And Stephen Ott is so high in the ranks of calling shots that office even answers to him. And this is why the title Trump Card goes right along with the title Ghost in the Machine. But Jacob Warner didn't follow Ott's instructions and helped Blanca Rodriguez acquire a warrant for Ghost's arrest. And she was walking into truth with that warrant at the same time he got shot. And this move cost Warner his job, and Ott replaced him with Cooper Sachs, someone he could easily control. But with that said, Ott was likely able to read Warner from the first time he talked to him and knew that he wasn't going to listen to what he said. And if they already had got wind that there was an investigation into Ghost to be able to make that threat in the first place, they also definitely got word as soon as that arrest warrant was signed. With that said, I think the provisions were already made on how Ghost would fake his death, and that's why he waited at the balcony like he did. And with the help of the Democratic Party, Ghost would have had everything in place he needed to easily fake his death, and was likely even wearing a bulletproof vest at the time he got shot. But the biggest clue that Ghost faked his death, other than the fact they never showed his body, and like Unique said, if that body don't show up, he ain't dead. But the next biggest clue is the ambulance that was leaving Truth with Ghost just minutes after he was shot. This lets us know that the ambulance was already in place waiting for him, but more importantly, that he definitely 100% didn't die on the scene like they said he did. Because if he would have died at the scene, the protocol would have been to leave his body there for the investigation and not immediately take it away in an ambulance, and even in an ambulance with the lights on. And I do hear people all the time saying that Ghost is dead because they got the burner phone off his body. So let me explain that as well before I move on. First, it wasn't Blanca who got the phone. She had been knocked out by Dre at this time when Ghost had been taken away, and they could have never trusted Blanca with this kind of information anyway. But it was Ghost himself who willingly gave the authorities the phone, knowing he was now untouchable, with the intent purely of getting revenge against 2-Bit. Earlier in the season, only a few weeks prior on the Power timeline, before Ghost was shot, there was a staged robbery at Club True. 2-Bit was one of the robbers that night, and he went overboard and took Ghost's Rolex, humiliating Ghost in public in the process. 2-Bit proudly wore that watch around, as we saw in Book 2. Two things about Ghost: he will never let someone punk him and get away with it, and second, he doesn't mind snitching to take out a threat or an enemy. At Ghost's funeral, there was a smoke and mirrors funeral arranged by the Democratic Party to put on a spectacle so there would be no questions about Ghost being alive, and that nobody, not even his own family, ever bothered to confirm by checking for a body. Estelle even asked Tariq at the burial who all the people were, and Tariq said he didn't know. Another clue is at the funeral, when they were bringing in the empty casket, the song 99 by Elliot Moss was playing. In this song it said, "Don't hold your breath waiting for me, because I may never come home." Another clue that Ghost is in the wind but not dead. I also think that Simon Stern could be involved in some type of way, because Ott definitely had Simon Stern talk to Tariq before speaking at Ghost's funeral to convince him not to say anything bad about Ghost like he was gonna do, because Davis told him it would help Tasha's case. On one of the final episodes of Power, Stern also cut Tate a fat check, so I definitely think he also has ties to Stephen Ott. I think the main reason that Ghost was written off the show to begin with, faking his death, is because Omari and Stars had a contract dispute. They didn't want to pay him what he felt like he deserved, quarterbacking the Power franchise to where they are today. Episode 409 concluded with the death of Monet Tejada, and like most know, Mary J was making 400 bands an episode. With one episode left, that just cleared 400 bands for the budget of the final episode. Not to mention whatever additional budget they get for guest features for the final episode. Again, this means but one thing: that the budget is now cleared up for Ghost to return in the final episode. Even if it's only for one scene, setting the stage for the next spin-off, it will be worth it for a lot of us Power fans. Getting me to the clues from episode 9 that Ghost might have actually saved Tariq from Carter and Noma's plan to set him and Monet up to get killed by the Russians, sending them to an abandoned amusement park in Staten Island. Carter specifically told Tariq to go alone and not to tell anybody about this. And Carter wasn't about to tell anybody about his plan to get Tariq killed either, because that would have only tied him to a murder, and being a cop, he knows better than that. Carter knows he needs to keep his hands clean, and that's why they used the Russians to begin with. But when Drew went to go meet up with the crew that Carter gave to him, they knew that Carter was sending Tariq to Staten Island. They didn't say anything about being set up. They just said that Carter had Tariq going out to Staten Island to do a run. And there's no way that Carter went running his mouth about sending Tariq to Staten Island to those guys who are even under Drew. That makes no kind of sense. And when Drew pulled up, they were laughing, calling Tariq different names. The question is, who gave these guys this message? I believe it was Ghost. Then later that night, Effie showed up at the Tejada bar to tell Kane that a random Russian told her about Vadim going to Staten Island for his drop. This definitely wasn't nobody associated with the Russians, because they were going for a hit and not a drop. And Effie said it was a random Russian, no one that she actually recognized. I don't think this was Ghost, but someone Ghost paid to tell Effie this information, because Effie would have recognized Ghost. And I still am not sure how Ghost got this information, but I'm guessing being in the machine gave him access to tap Carter's phone or something like that. Or he was able to overhear Noma and Carter discussing this plan some other type of way. But Ghost is really the only person I see who could have done this. I considered it might have been Nico, but even if he wanted to betray Carter, why would he save Tariq? Ghost went to the links he did and just didn't save Tariq himself, because he's still trying to avoid Tariq knowing that he's alive. And there you have it. Will Ghost return for the final episode of Power Book 2? Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.